He cheated on me with my best friend, and now they want my kids to help them heal. I said no, and now he's taking me to court to force me to comply. It's been 5 years since my life imploded. 5 years since I found out that my husband, the man I trusted, the father of my children, was having an affair. And not just with anyone, but with my best friend. The betrayal cut so deep that no amount of apologies could ever mend what they shattered. They begged me not to let it ruin everything, but they had already done that themselves. I hate them. Both of them. And honestly, I don't care how they're doing anymore. But I've always kept it civil, for my kids. I've never once told my children what really happened. Never badmouthed their father or the woman who used to be my closest friend. As much as it burns inside me, I refuse to let my pain become theirs. The divorce was already hard enough on them, and even now, they struggle with the changes. Therapy has helped, but adjustment is never easy, especially when the woman who broke our family apart insists on playing the role of mom's old friend. To make matters worse, my ex moved in with her almost immediately after our split. Imagine how confusing that must have been for my kids, going from a home with 2 parents to living part-time with their dad and a woman they once called auntie. But through it all, I stayed focused on my children. Because I love them more than I hate those 2. And then December happened. She suffered her 10th miscarriage. 10. This time, it was so severe that she needed emergency surgery, and the doctors told her she would never be able to have children of her own. I won't lie, when my ex called to tell me, I didn't feel much. He asked me to bring the kids to the hospital, to have them stay there until she was discharged. It was my parenting time, and I simply said no. The kids weren't going to sit in a hospital waiting room for days. He didn't take it well. When I refused, he pushed harder, said he'd have the kids ask me themselves if I didn't comply. I shut that down immediately. After that, silence. No more calls. He didn't even take the kids for his parenting time. His mother eventually called and told me he refused to leave the hospital, completely consumed by what had happened. When he finally did take the kids again, the tension was thick. He was furious at me for not letting them sit vigil in the hospital. And now? Now, we have a whole new issue. He's planned some sort of healing getaway for the 2 of them. And he wants to take the kids. It's during my week, on a school week. Not only that, but he wants his regular parenting time before and after, which would mean the kids would be with him for 3 consecutive weeks. 3 weeks out of school, just so they can be there for her. I said no. I told him school comes first, and more importantly, our children are not emotional support animals. They're kids, and no amount of guilt tripping is going to change my mind. Therapy exists for a reason, and they need to process their grief in a healthy way, not by leaning on 2 kids who barely understand what's going on. He tried to argue that since he missed a week before, it should be made up for. But our court-ordered agreement is clear: if a parent voluntarily gives up their time, there's no automatic make-up week unless it's mutually agreed upon. And I don't agree. That's when he hit me with, "How can you be so by the book about this? Where's your human decency?" He actually asked me how I'd feel if she couldn't handle the loss, if she ended her life, and if my refusal to let the kids come played a role in it. He wanted me to believe that I was the one who could prevent that. I looked him straight in the eye and said, I wouldn't feel anything. And I meant it. They lost the right to my compassion when they betrayed me. I won't be manipulated into putting their needs above what's right for my kids. But now, he won't stop pushing. The guilt trips, the pleas, the emotional blackmail. And honestly, part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh. Should I bend? Should I let them go? Or am I right to hold my ground and protect my kids from becoming caretakers in a situation that isn't theirs to bear? I need to know, am I wrong? Update 1. I held my ground, but it did not take long for my ex to escalate things. He started texting nonstop, trying to convince me that I was being unreasonable, selfish, and heartless. He kept bringing up how much the kids love them, how important it is for them to be there for family, and how I was just using the situation to punish him. He even tried to pull the whole "we need to set a good example of co-parenting" angle, which, coming from him, is laughable at best. I ignored most of it because I knew responding would just give him more fuel. But he would not let up. Then, his wife decided to get involved. She sent me this long, emotional message about how she knows things are complicated between us, but she is in pain and just wants a little grace. She said that having my kids around would bring her comfort and stability, and that she loves them so much. I did not respond. There was nothing to say. I know exactly what she wants, and I am not going to entertain it. The truth is, I do not care what she wants, not anymore. She made her choices, and now she has to live with them, without dragging my children into it. What really threw me, though, was when my ex's mom got involved. She called me out of the blue, all sweet and concerned, trying to play peacemaker. She said she understands how I feel, but that the kids would be such a big help right now. She said that even though the situation is messy, the kids would want to support their father if they knew what he was going through. I told her flat out that I was not discussing it with her and hung up. I could hear the disappointment in her voice, but I do not care. It is not my job to make my ex's life easier. My job is to make sure my kids are okay, and they are not emotional support animals. The pressure kept building, though. My ex started guilt-tripping the kids, which is what I was afraid of all along. I overheard my daughter on the phone with him, and I could tell he was laying it on thick, saying things like, "Daddy really needs you right now, and it would mean so much to us if you were here." She was quiet, listening, nodding, and I could feel my blood boiling. I wanted to snatch the phone away and tell him to cut it out, but I kept my cool. Instead, I talked to my kids later that night. I asked them how they felt about the whole situation, and they seemed a little confused, but not necessarily upset. I reassured them that they are not responsible for fixing anyone's sadness, and that their job is to be kids, to focus on school and their own well-being. My ex, of course, did not take this well. He called me again, furious that I was turning the kids against him, which is completely ridiculous. I told him that I simply reminded them that it is okay to focus on themselves and that I would not be changing my decision. That is when he pulled his trump card, the one I knew was coming, but still made my jaw drop. He told me that if I did not let them go, he would take me back to court to reevaluate custody. I laughed. Literally laughed. I told him to go ahead, take me to court, and see how that works out for him. He knows as well as I do that no judge is going to let him yank the kids out of school for 3 weeks just to support his grieving wife. The courts do not care about his emotional needs. After that, things got quiet for a while, and I thought maybe, just maybe, he had finally accepted my answer. I was wrong. Instead, he went to the kids' school. Yep, you read that right. He actually showed up and tried to talk to their teachers about possible options for taking them out for an extended period. The school called me immediately, and I shut that down fast. I made it very clear to them that under no circumstances was he allowed to make any decisions regarding school outside of our agreed custody arrangement. The principal was on my side, thankfully, and they reassured me that they would not entertain any requests from him without my consent. When I confronted him about it, he acted like he had no idea why I was upset. He said he was just exploring options and that I should be grateful he is being proactive. I told him he was being manipulative and overstepping, and that if he kept this up, I would have no problem taking him back to court myself. That seemed to shut him up, at least for now. But the whole thing left me shaken. I am tired of playing this game with him. The thing that really frustrates me is how much energy they are putting into this, as if their healing somehow hinges on my kids being there. I understand grief, I really do, but this is not the way to handle it. And I cannot help but think, if they had put even half this effort into being decent human beings in the first place, none of us would be in this mess. It is exhausting, constantly having to be the bad guy, the one who says no, the one who enforces the rules while they get to play the victim. My ex keeps telling me to have some compassion, but where was his compassion when he tore our family apart? Where was hers? Now they expect me to roll over and play nice because they are hurting? No. That is not how this works. For now, I am standing firm. I will not let them guilt me into something that I know is not in my children's best interest. But I know this is not over yet. My ex is nothing if not persistent, and I am sure he is already cooking up his next move. I just have to be ready for it. In the meantime, I am focusing on my kids, making sure they feel safe and secure. I will keep having those tough conversations with them, reminding them that they are not responsible for fixing anyone else's sadness. It is hard, but I have to believe that sticking to my boundaries is the right thing to do. One thing I have learned from all of this is that healing does not come from forcing other people to carry your burdens. It comes from doing the work yourself. And no matter how much they try to shift that responsibility onto my children, I will not let it happen. I know people might think I am being too harsh, but I do not think I am. I have spent years swallowing my pain, being civil, putting my kids first, and that is not going to change. But putting my kids first means protecting them from situations that are not fair to them. And I am okay with being the villain in their eyes if it means doing what is right. So, I guess we will see what happens next. But one thing is for sure, I am not backing down. Update 2. Things have officially gone from frustrating to completely absurd. My ex is doubling down, and I honestly cannot believe some of the things he is pulling. After the whole school stunt, I thought he would back off, but instead, he found a new angle. He started contacting mutual friends, family members, even some parents from our kids' school, trying to get people to talk to me on his behalf. Suddenly, I am getting random messages from people I have not spoken to in years, all giving me some version of, "I know things are complicated, but maybe you could just let the kids go for a little while." As if I am the unreasonable one here. One person even had the audacity to tell me that sometimes we have to sacrifice a little for the greater good. The greater good? Are you kidding me? It is clear that he is playing the victim card hard. I heard from one of the parents at the school that he has been spinning this whole thing like I am keeping the kids away out of spite, that I am cold and heartless and do not care about what they are going through. I should have expected it, honestly. This has always been his pattern. He screws up, and then somehow, I am the bad guy for not making his life easier. But here is where it gets even worse. He called me, and this time, he was not trying to guilt-trip me. No, now he is demanding that I comply. He actually said, "I will not let you keep my kids from me when we need them the most." Excuse me? Your kids? Last I checked, I am the one who has been doing the hard work of raising them, keeping their lives stable, making sure they do not fall apart every time their world gets shaken up. He acts like I am being cruel when all I am doing is enforcing the boundaries that should have been obvious from the start. And then he dropped another bomb. He said if I did not agree to let the kids go on this trip, he would be filing an emergency motion with the court. I laughed, but inside, I was fuming. He thinks he can just steamroll over me and get what he wants, but he forgets that I have receipts. I reminded him, once again, that our custody agreement is crystal clear, and that if he wants to go to court over this, he better come prepared. I called my lawyer, just to be sure I was covered, and of course, I am. The agreement is solid, and there is no way a judge is going to approve taking the kids out of school for 3 weeks for something that has nothing to do with their well-being. My lawyer advised me to document everything, which I have been doing religiously. Every text, every call, every third-party message he has sent my way. But here is the thing that bothers me the most. The kids are starting to feel the tension. My oldest asked me the other night why their dad seemed sad all the time and why he wanted them to stay with him so badly. It broke my heart. I hate that they are being put in the middle of this. I have always done my best to protect them from the worst of it, but he just cannot help dragging them into his mess. I told them that their dad is just having a hard time right now and that it is okay to feel sad for him, but it is not their job to fix it. I am trying to walk that fine line of being honest without putting too much on their shoulders. And of course, his wife has not stopped trying to get involved. She actually emailed me this long, dramatic message about how she understands how much pain I must still be in and how she never meant to hurt me. As if this is about my feelings. No, this is about my kids and what is best for them. She wrote that she just wants a chance to build a bond with the kids and that I am standing in the way of something beautiful. I could not even finish reading it without rolling my eyes. I do not need her psychoanalyzing me or pretending like we can all just play happy families after everything they did. At this point, I am just waiting for the next move because I know it is coming. My gut tells me he is not done yet, and I am bracing myself for whatever nonsense he is going to try next. In the meantime, I am staying firm, keeping my boundaries clear, and focusing on my kids. I have gotten a lot of mixed reactions from friends and family, and honestly, I do not care anymore. Some people get it, others think I am being too rigid, but at the end of the day, my job is to protect my kids. And if that means being the bad guy in someone else's story, then so be it. For now, I am holding the line. But I know this is not over yet. Update 3. Well, it has been a roller coaster, but I think things are finally settling down. At least, for now. After weeks of pushing, guilt-tripping, and his ridiculous threats, my ex finally backed off. But not before one last desperate attempt to get his way. He actually filed for an emergency custody hearing. Yep, he went through with it. I got served, and honestly, I was not even surprised. At this point, it felt like a final, desperate attempt to regain some control, but it only ended up blowing up in his face. My lawyer and I went into the hearing fully prepared. I had every text, every voicemail, every single instance of him trying to manipulate me and the kids. I had school records, documentation of how well the kids are doing academically, and even statements from their teachers who confirmed that pulling them out for weeks would disrupt their progress. The judge took one look at everything and shut him down immediately. The emergency motion? Denied. No, he could not take the kids out of school for 3 weeks for his healing retreat. No, his wife's grief did not constitute an emergency that justified uprooting the kids from their routine. The judge reminded him that the custody order is legally binding and that he cannot pick and choose when to follow it. He was not happy, to say the least. I did not even feel satisfied after winning because the whole thing was just exhausting. Sitting in that courtroom, listening to him try to paint me as the villain who is keeping his children from him when all I have ever done is put their needs first, it was frustrating beyond words. He claimed I was being cruel, that I was teaching the kids to resent him, and that I was cold-hearted. But the judge did not buy it, and neither did I. After the ruling, I expected him to come out swinging again, but surprisingly, he has gone quiet. Maybe the court's firm response knocked some sense into him, or maybe he is just regrouping, but for now, the constant badgering has stopped. The kids, thankfully, seem to be handling everything well. They are resilient, and I am doing everything I can to keep things normal for them. I made it a point to remind them that they are loved and supported and that none of this drama is their fault. They do not need to worry about their dad's feelings or anyone else's. Their job is to be kids, go to school, and enjoy their lives. As for his wife, well, she tried one more time to reach out to me after the hearing. Another long-winded message about how she hoped I could find it in my heart to let the past go and come together as a family for the sake of the children. I did not respond. What is the point? We are not a family. We never will be. And I am done pretending otherwise. Looking back on everything, I do not regret how I handled it. I know some people think I was too rigid, but I stand by my decisions. My kids are my priority, and that will never change. If I have to be the bad guy in their eyes to ensure my children have stability and boundaries, so be it. I have spent years swallowing my pride and being civil, but civility does not mean letting people walk all over me. For now, things are quiet. I am cautiously optimistic that this will be the end of it, but with my ex, you never know. Either way, I am ready for whatever comes next. But I am also tired. Tired of constantly having to reinforce the boundaries that should be obvious. Tired of having to protect my kids from situations they should not even be involved in. All I can do now is keep moving forward and hope that, with time, my ex will finally accept the reality of our situation and stop dragging our kids into his emotional mess. Thanks to everyone who weighed in and supported me. It has been a tough ride, but I know I am doing what is right.